Hey everybody, how's it going? We are back again for another round of readings. We are starting off with Monday. So, happy Monday. It's been a while since I've had this deck of cards. The last reading we did with a different deck, so it's been a few days since I shuffled this. I don't remember if I've done readings with this deck personally since, but I don't think so. So, we're just going to take an extra minute to just kind of shuffle these cards, get that energy nice and cleared out, and then we're going to get right into it. I don't really have a sense of the energy going into this week, so I think we're just going to kind of let the cards speak for themselves this time. I know sometimes it kind of waxes and wanes, how much kind of influence I feel like I have going forward into a reading. And speaking of waxing and waning, it's almost a full moon, guys, so I believe the full moon is this week, so maybe we'll be getting some really interesting energy. So pay close attention to what we're getting from the cards, because whatever I see here is probably going to be kind of amplified with the energy of the moon. So let's get started with card number one. What's the energy we're kind of bringing into this week? Let's get started with card number one. We'll see kind of the energy we have going into this week. Where are we coming from? What's our starting basis going forward? And I'm going to pull randomly from the deck, and we have the Sun card. There it goes. So we're starting off with the Sun card. Whoa. Give it kind of a minute. It always kind of throws off the camera whenever you do those. So we're starting off with the Sun card, so that's kind of the positivity, the source, the energy moving forward. So that's a pretty good way to start off your week. I think last week we started off a little rougher. This week, hopefully we took some advice from last week, and now we're moving with kind of calmer waters. So it's really interesting that we started off with this card when we were just talking about the moon. We're kind of going in with the opposite. So take that in mind as the energy of the moon's growing. How can we kind of incorporate this solar energy? How can we kind of allow this positivity to nurture and grow as the moon is coming to its fullest? And now we're actually getting closest to the light half of the year. So once we kind of get through that Ostara, that equinox time of the year, where I know some people call the light half of the year the time of the year when the sun starts, like the days start getting longer. I personally prefer to say that the light half of the year is once the sun has overtaken the night, because that just makes more sense to me. It's like calling it the light half of the year right after Yule, when it's still like objectively very dark, like it's the darkest time of the year, so that's never made much sense to me. So moving forward with this week, we're just going to start off with that kind of solar energy. Things are getting bright, things are starting to bloom, the moon is getting full, even the nights are going to be pretty bright. So I think this is going to be a pretty solar energy, because I'm sure all of you know the moon is tied directly with the sun. The moonlight is the sunlight reflecting off of that, so we're just getting a very bright, the days are getting longer, the nights are getting brighter. How can we just kind of incorporate this positivity into the beginning of our week? It's kind of already the energy that's just kind of culminating, so just focus on that. Maybe spend your first day just kind of appreciating where you're starting off, all the progress you've already made. Maybe this week we aren't going to be working as hard as we were last week. We're just going to be kind of resting on what already is. Even if you feel like you didn't make a ton of progress last week, you have made progress over the last year, the last couple of years. Where are you coming from? Where were you? Not so much how far are you from where you want to be, but how far are you from where you came? This is just a good time to be reflecting on that. So that's the energy we're moving in to this week with. So that's kind of the basic, the groundwork. We're going to shuffle the cards a little bit more. fan them out a little bit. Sometimes I pull just from like the top after I've shuffled. Sometimes I like to kind of fan it out and see what's calling to me. What are we thinking? Let's do these. I'm getting called for these two, so we're gonna do these for our present and our future. Which one do we think is feeling a little more present? I'm thinking this one's present, this one's future. Just kind of go with the flow. If you guys are new to reading tarot, don't be afraid to have your own rules, but then don't be afraid to break those own rules. It's really all about what you're feeling, not so much like sticking to the rigid rules. It's good to have those rules as a basic foundation, but you want to be able to move forward from them eventually. And if you decide to go back and you do want to stay rigid, that's great, but it's good to be able to kind of play around with your rules. Okay, here we have the Five of Wands. So that's interesting because it kind of combats the vibe we're getting going into this week. I started off saying it's going to be a pretty sunshiny Monday, but maybe we're going to hit a little bit of conflict. I was watching a YouTube video from a YouTuber called Ember Honeyraven. She's really fun and positive, but she was talking about, for her personally, that the suit of wands has to deal with conflict, so it's trouble. And this, of all the wands cards, you can understand why people would call this a very conflicting card. There's a lot of energy. We had pulled, I believe it was the Six of Wands last week, and we were talking about there is conflict, but you're kind of above it and exerting conscious effort to stay above it. But this looks like the turmoil might come and something might come and just kind of hit you right in the face. You might just be directly involved. Sometimes you can stay above it, sometimes you can't. It really is kind of that exercise in being humble, because you don't want to constantly move forward and pretend that you're better than everything and you're better than everyone else, because sometimes it really just does come down to humbling you. But that being said, there's always stuff you can do. We are going in with this kind of solar energy, and we're moving into this fire. There's passion, so there's going to be a lot of passion moving forward with this. So see if you can really try to bring that to the energy that comes. It's always kind of hard to predict exactly how this conflicting energy will manifest, but the fire and the energy is going to be on your side. There's a lot of momentum here, I guess would be a good way to say it. There's a lot of energy to be played with. Sometimes in these very dark times of the year, we're meant to be hibernating, we're meant to be relaxing, so we're just kind of like stuffed away in our little holes. Now the days are getting longer, the plants are starting to bloom, leaves are starting to like pop up. I know we have the daffodils here have started to bloom, so you're moving into this week with a lot of energy. Now, that once you're kind of on this path and there's a lot of momentum being built up, it's easy for that to kind of go out of control. So that's kind of what we want to watch for. You've broken into your sprint, and it's a lot. You get hit a lot harder if you trip over a pebble if you're sprinting than if you're just walking. So have that momentum, but be careful for the little rocks you may stumble over. You don't want to fully trip yourself up by running a little too fast. Maybe take some time to slow down a little bit. You've been building some really cool stuff, but don't be afraid to take a little bit of a break. You don't want to fly too close to the sun this week, let's say. It's a nice sunny day. It's bright. We're having a good time, but let's not fly too high. Let's not take that energy and use it all up until we're just exhausted. That could be a specific message for someone. If you have all this kind of like solar and fire energy on your side, make sure you're not just like doing everything you can to like burn it all up right now. Like, you'll be fine. Take a deep breath. If you burn it all right now, then you're not going to have any moving later into the week. And if you were able to conserve it a little bit so you don't completely burn yourself out, then you'll find it's replenished much easier than if you use it all up. Alright guys, we're going into the last card. What are the things we're kind of looking out for as we move past Monday? As Monday's kind of as it kind of comes to a close, and we've taken the energy we have, we're watching out, making sure we're not getting tripped up. Where do we want to go from here? And the energy of that is Seven of Swords. There we go. You have to put it really close and then kind of back it away, and that'll give it a little bit of the momentum that it needs to be able to focus. For some reason, that's how it works. I don't know. So this is another really interesting card. It's kind of suggesting conflict. It's suggesting a little bit of thievery, maybe some trickery. Somebody's lying. The Suit of Swords has a lot to do with the mind, mental. It's air. It's maybe a little bit ethereal. Maybe the things that are a little harder to pin down, but it exists. It exists in the mind. It's your perception. You are creating your own reality, and this is implying that either you or someone close to you is going to be partaking in a little bit of trickery. I personally, I don't have as negative of an association with this card as I think some other people do. I think there's some room in life for a little bit of trickery. I think there's a lot of practitioners that are out there who kind of fit into that archetype of like the witch on the outside of the village, and you're not always using your powers for evil, but maybe you just want a little bit of like trickery. You want to trip someone up. Maybe somebody got a little too close to you, decided to push your boundaries a little bit when you were already having a pretty good day, and they're just trying to mess that up for you. So now you're going to kind of go into this archetype of like the rebel witch, the trickster god. Maybe you want to light a candle for someone and just kind of like mutter something under your breath, trip them up a little bit, hope that their shoelace comes untied, give them a little bit of an evil eye. Maybe I don't know. I don't know that I so much want to endorse getting revenge on people, but there's a difference between wholehearted malice and just kind of being those little lessons of not letting people mess with you. Maybe this is your reminder to. It's not so much setting the boundary. It's kind of the consequences of what happens when people cross those boundaries. So maybe this is your reminder to just kind of. What is it? We're in early March. April Fool's Day is coming up. We're kind of getting near that energy. Maybe this is the time of year where you have more energy as the days are getting long and you just have a little extra to expend. Maybe you use that to light a candle for someone who does you wrong. Nothing too harsh. We don't want to really mess with people's lives. That's a lot of energy, and I don't. Maybe there is a time and a place for that, but I don't think that's what this card is. I don't think this is dedicating like 3 nights to put like a full-on curse on someone. But maybe just a little charm bag to just kind of mess with their energy as a consequence for getting too near you. Maybe you put up some protections that happens if somebody crosses you like this, and if you find that a lot of this conflict is going directly into your face, that you want to remind people who they're messing with. So I think that's kind of the gist of what today's reading is going to be. It has to do with having a positive beginning. Sometimes people aren't willing to respect that. Sometimes things directly go against your own peace and your positivity, and that's fine. You can't always be above it. It's just not possible. But when it does happen, it's okay to remind people that they don't get to talk to you like that. Like, set up those, not the boundaries themselves, but the consequences for crossing those boundaries. Make sure you're aware of your own consequences for when other people or yourself cross your own boundaries. Be very aware of kind of the stick that happens when you misbehave, like the nun slapping your wrist with a ruler. Just keep that in mind. Even if nobody actually does you wrong, maybe this is a good time to just be kind of thinking about the consequences for people messing with you. Again, we don't want to be creating anything too harsh, but it's good to have these things thought out in advance. It's a little trickery. It's never hurt anyone too bad. Just keep it kind of lighthearted. Alright guys, I think that is the Monday reading. We are good to go. I hope you guys have a fantastic start to your week, and I will see you for the next one. Have a good one. Thanks for watching.